It is 7 o'clock.
Because they think they're.
This is, we're going to convene the meeting. It's the July meeting of the VHCA Board. Present is a quorum with Mr. Brandenberger, Ms. Taylor, Ms. Berg, Ms. Ewell, Ms. Wyndham, Ms. Carlisle, and myself. Lauren is out of town on work. Catherine was going to try to come. She was sick. But we will pass over her, and I heard from somebody else. I can't remember who. In any case, we have a quorum. May I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you very much. Is that any discussion without objection? We have no public officials. Let's go straight to the variance and license applications. Ms. Carlisle.
Okay, so V15-156, 630 Crest Hill Avenue has asked for a deferral, so I move that we recommend, do we need to recommend?
Let's do it.
Move to recommend deferral.
Any comment? Objections? Without objection, it is ordered. Next.
V15-162, 625 Crest Hill Avenue, we have Dan here to go over plans.
Hi. You guys need to see these plans right now, or can I
Yes,
just?
you should stand up and treat this as a rehearsal for the
Okay,
interview, where there will be a little bit of a crowd.
Hi, I'm your neighbor at 625 Crest Hill. You might know our house. We're the ones that put out the big Dr. Seuss trees every holiday season. We're asking for a variance because it's required, but there's not going to be any change at all to the footprint. Thank you. The footprint of the house or to the runoff from the house. We're not removing any trees, although there is one tree that we will now be drawing onto our plan that didn't appear on the plan that does lean into our foundation. We would consider if that really does have an impact doing something with that tree, but that's not part of this current proposal, and if it happens, it won't happen soon. So really the object of our renovation is to improve the street appeal of our house, not to change it. We're still going to be a small house. We have a kind of a great big dormer that looks like it landed from outer space on our house. We're going to make that look nicer and tie it in with our roof line. But by doing that, we've increased the heated area of our somehow, and so we need a variance to increase that by up to 3 feet. I think that's it in a nutshell. Except that, thank you.
I do think that's right. The variance is to reduce the front yard setback from 35 to the existing. It's right here. To reduce it from 35 to the existing, which is 4 feet 2 in, 35 to 30, which is 4 feet 2 in. That gives them 10 inches to make mistakes. Is there any discussion or what the planning committee recommendation?
We recommended approval conditioned on receiving, which we'll still look for the site plan stamped and dated by the city to match the one that we have here that we all signed, and with the inclusion of the tree.
The planning office, according to my architect, the planning office forgot to stamp that page. I'll do that tomorrow morning.
Thanks very much. So we do have, if you run into troubles, be sure to get a hold of me or somebody here in Debbie, because
Oh, thanks very much.
A lot
I'll
harder.
the backup. I'm a little nervous about running into the bureaucracy.
smooth as silk, I'm sure. But just, you're persuasive. Just get it in. Any questions for the applicant? The neighbors are notified. Nothing's changing at all on zone order. It's very minimal in the existing footprint.
I have enthusiastic letters from my neighbors.
So that's a motion to move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions at all from anyone? All those in favor, please raise your hand. All right, sir, you are unanimously approved. Your next stop, other than that, is we'll see you next Monday. You'll be in
Monday.
Debbie's hands. It'll be about 7:03, or give or take 30, 40, 50 minutes.
I'll be there with bells on and stamps.
But she's moving things in a much more difficult environment, much to be admired, the way she's moving that meeting along. So thank you very much for coming. You're very welcome to stay. It just gets more interesting from here.
Thanks. I think I'll stay.
And we're on to the Jennifer's not here. The Monroe Drop Carter update is that there is no new news. Since the Carter folks are at a standstill, given the unexpected announcement, awarding or tentative awarding of the contract. contract to, along with the land along the Beltline, with someone else. And they are examining their options, and they are awaiting their examination of their options, and we are watching this with great avidity. And Catherine could update us a little bit on the fire station update, but we are going to, I do know that Alex, she and Alex will be meeting in the next week, and Alex went to a committee meeting today when he was trying to figure out when the funding that came through the bond issue would get shaken loose down the thing, so that there are no impediments inside. Paige, you want to update us on the Summerfest? Is there any questions about any of those? Paige, Summerfest?
I don't have final numbers on Summerfest, but I think we're going to come in a little bit ahead of last year because we did really well. Even though we had some issues on Sunday, traffic was slower. Many fewer attendees, but we came out ahead with sponsorships, way ahead from last year. So that is going to, I think, boost us over last year's take. But hopefully we will finalize those numbers later this week. We have a meeting tomorrow, Wednesday. It's the final wrap-up meeting for Summerfest. So hopefully we'll get some stuff finalized then.
I have a question about Summerfest. I ran into a really interesting guy that is an amazing musician. How do I get him involved? Like, do people apply to be the lineup singers there, or?
No, we actually use
Bands
a
or-
like a talent agency.
Okay. I just wondered if we go find it or not.
You can recommend and connect
Okay.
them, right, to,
We could, but we try to go typically with the main stage. We might be able to hook him up with the local stage.
Okay.
So if you want to, if you
Yeah,
have the
I've got his stuff.
information, send it to me. I'll give you my email address.
Okay.
And we can hook him up with, for the local stage.
Okay.
Probably.
Awesome.
Any other questions or comments? We're going to go actually I'd like to amend them. There's no objection, I'd like to amend the agenda and add the tour back to it, which I had on last month's, but dropped it when you were not able to make it. Any objection to that? Without objection, we'll add the tour page on. Where are we? I'm sorry,
Yes.
Angelica, my
That's okay.
apologies.
Okay, so I have an update, which is great. We so far have 5 solid homes on the tour. We're still looking for 3 more. Our goal is to have 8 houses. So we're really pretty desperado right now. We had 5 2 weeks ago, and then a week ago, dropped down to 3. So we have kicked some booty this week to try to find, or last week to find those extra 2. So we're really struggling this year, which is very surprising considering all the construction and everybody that we would think would want to be in it. So if y'all have any other suggestions, we would love them. Anything, anybody you think, even the house looks beautiful from the outside, we don't know what it looks like inside, just let us know. We are literally getting out on the streets and hand delivering notes right now. I've met so many cool people, but they all say no.
Ms. Kent, did I see you have your hand up?
next
No,
year.
Next year for her, so you can write that down.
Now, I gotta tell you about our sponsorship. In lieu of all that, we are sitting at about $20,000 sponsorship already. And that's our big thing. We only need one more presenting sponsor, and if we fill the presenting sponsor and all the premiums that we have left, without any little people sponsoring, like a mom and pop like little shopper like me, interior design person, we would get another 18 grand. So we would probably be starting in at 30 grand before ticket sales. So this will be another biggie year, hopefully. So we'll be in the 60s again. So that's really it, but we're pretty desperate for houses. It's not
Let's
that
look at the
easy.
scope of our applicants, and maybe we could recondition. Could you do a little more, Dan, in case it's not dramatic enough? And can you finish like a river?
Can you make your entire roof a skylight? That'd be pretty dramatic. Glass roof?
We have
Would
4.
it decrease my,
I do have a really good candidate for you. they're
Oh,
out of town.
okay, and we have 4 really amazing people we're going to see this week, so it really could be a wrap by Friday.
Okay, all right.
But if we get desperate,
But I want to see you make a note of it next year, because we have 1 in hand for next year. So
2.
2.
It's gonna be a Crest Hill Bonanza.
All right.
Okay.
Up and down Crest Hill, all damn
Maybe
streets.
3.
We'll have those on it too, Sheila.
Okay. Well, that's great stuff, especially obviously the sponsorship, which I think went very well. And I think you were mentioning earlier, Paige, for Summerfest this year,
Yeah,
which is
that's really good.
awesome. So great job, and you did send out the plea, and I promise you, we will keep up with that, because it is a good house, not far from these
Okay.
guys. So if these guys will do it, you'll be very happy.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Angelica? David, any remarks for us? I know we have a couple of things brewing at John Howell.
Yeah, there's not a lot new with parks right now, although Jack and I are going to meet with Peter Frawley tomorrow, or excuse me, on Wednesday actually, to kind of take another fresh look at the section of John Howell that was impacted by the sweet gum that came down. So we're going to see if we might be able to potentially do some different landscaping, improve that, and also improve the entrance there a little bit. And some other ideas floating around that I'm happy to go into more detail about, but some interesting things that we might be able to do there. Outside of that, we're still going to also meet with Peter about the triangle and talk about potentially some sort of design element that will prevent people from cutting through there and destroying the
Kids specifically hanging out.
Yeah,
on the
we don't
front.
want to be too specific, but yeah. Cut the kids out from playing in the triangle
No
itself.
more kids.
And then outside of that, that's kind of the main things coming up in the next week or two, unless I missed something.
No, I think that's it. We are looking a little bit at the drainage off the volleyball court, which is not a disaster. It didn't work perfectly as planned, but well within our ability to reconceive it a little bit and modify it. It's basically, but that, I mean, Peter, we were talking to Peter about that. Maybe that entrance, I mean, on the upper level, it's really 2 parts. John Howell's 2 parts, the upper and the lower one, quite separate. And that could be a little more formalized entrance there to the up one if you guys say that if there's cool ideas, but everybody will see them. They'll get publicized before any big changes.
Yeah, I think there's an opportunity there, depending upon what the cost elements are. I think it's could be good. The only other thing is there are several people in the neighborhood noticed a leak at the spigot at the triangle. I did go by today and shut that off and notified Parks, and they're sent someone out to take a look at it and hopefully repair the faucet. I don't have an ETA on that, but we do have a work order, so there shouldn't be any more leaking water coming out of that.
Is there an alternative for the triangle rather than trying to do something to keep the kids out, just making it?
Cactus?
No, the opposite, just making,
Yeah, we can put a-
embracing it as a sitting area, a hangout
Playground
area.
apparatus in the middle or something?
No, benches, benches, something like that. I mean, if it's a big place to congregate, I mean, is it a bad thing? And
Yeah,
if it
in
is,
my
then you need
opinion,
to put
personally,
like
Jennifer, is that
8-foot.
there's a knee wall there to congregate and sit on, and they shouldn't be in the landscaping itself, but I'm open to ideas.
But wouldn't that be easier, just, putting in like, whatever, mondo
You
grass?
can take it
that would be
offline.
walked
I don't
on?
think mondo grass in the middle is gonna look good. I think that's a significant hallmark to the area, and it represents the neighborhood, and I think it should be landscaped properly, but we can take that offline if you want to discuss it further.
It is, there are a ton of people that sit on the Virginia side of where it is a waste time. I mean, we could talk about raising it on the other side so that it's that high all around. I hate to do much more because it wouldn't conceive that way. And the basic conception was it's floral and you're outside it, whether there was some debate at the time. And then there was even more debate at the last second because that's the way things roll around here. And at that point, everybody says, the hell with it, it's designed, it's done, it's approved, goodbye. And it's worked pretty, it's overplanted now, if anything. And it's, the trees in there are competing for, but anyway, it's working, it looks pretty nice, and I mean, I think they've.
If you have ideas,
It just, I mean, I have not pondered it, but it seems to me
Come to a meeting.
like there's one or the other. If you want to keep people out, you're gonna need to do like a little wrought iron fence or something,
That's
which
What
is,
we're talking about.
That's what we're talking about.
okay.
Just on the one side, on the Taco Mac and Murphy's side, and it would be short. It would just be enough to,
The kids aren't malicious. I mean,
No.
if you ask them not to go, they're great kids, they don't go in. I mean, as soon as you remind them, they've, every time we've done that, but we just, a little design deterrent. Peter is very picky about these things.
yeah, we'll see. I mean, nothing's decided, and everything will be fronted in front of the board, and it'll be up for a vote. But I think, go ahead.
When you're looking at that, would you look at the furniture zone between the sidewalk and the curb on the Taco Mac side? 'Cause, you know, I was looking at, there's that black stuff that they put down in that same area in front of the chiropractic clinic at the corner of Rosedale Drive and Virginia. And it just looks neater than mud, but it seems to be a thing that sustains trees also. I wonder if there's not something we could do like that, if we're gonna start a project.
Oh, yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
You mean kind of like the,
Like where Cortex is?
yeah, I know what that is. Yeah, something there, we need to do something.
That maybe makes better tree wells and
Yeah.
so there's a little more water for the trees, and then also makes something that doesn't look like a rubber plant, because it would never survive.
Yeah. I think there's an issue, so something
Yeah,
like that
we
is
can
probably the only thing we can do. Yeah. Okay.
All right, absent further questions, we're back to you for a quick update. I did
So
talk,
very sorry to be late. My
no, it's okay, I
husband's
did
broken
talk
both
to
his
Alex
hands and
today,
stuff.
I'll mention,
Oh my God. We're having a terrible time.
I'll mention to you, Alex said he was at a committee meeting this afternoon, I haven't talked to him afterwards,
Okay.
trying to figure out how to shape where the process
Yes.
was of getting the money loose, but what,
Yeah, so I don't know much more about the station. Summer's been a hard time to get everybody's attention, but we're meeting with Chief Baker later in the week about a different project, so I'm hoping that I can get an answer from him. So the idea, of course, is that we have the bond money, the $600,000, with the idea that if we had a little bit more, it would let us close out and do all of the projects that we're trying to think about for the fire station. So we've got about $100,000 that's just been community money over the years that's been raised. Half of it is at the Fire Foundation and half of it is at the VHCA. The challenge, we've talked to the Fire Foundation about transferring the funds into the VHCA. They've been reluctant to do that. They want to keep it but still make it available for the construction. So I'm not persuaded that that's the end of that conversation. So I'll stay on it because I think it'd actually be smarter to have all in one pot of money. I just think it becomes far too complex to manage two pots. So they've actually asked us to come down and give them some advice about the fire museum down in number 6. So I'm going to parlay my expertise as a curator and hopefully persuade them to put it all together. So we'll see how that goes. And then I know that just recently, the 4th of July, raised about $1,500. Lowell shot me the email from the Parents Association, so that's terrific. With the idea that we probably have about another $90,000 to $100,000 if we want to get to a $800,000. We haven't done any kind of campaign. It's really truly been just event to event, Summerfest to anything that we've sort of managed. But I think once we know the hard number, what we need to get to, and I cannot get either Alex or Chief Baker to answer, is we have this. The idea was that the money would be released in October. And certainly available. That was at least the understanding. And our hope was that this summer we could do all the planning, get the architect, get the plan of work, get a scope of work, do a full assessment, because that's going to happen for the city, no matter how we slice it. So one hope is that we could get the architect to, maybe we could pay for the architect out of our funds, which controls the whole project, frankly. So that's another way to consider it. So trying to get their attention, that's been my approach, so we don't know much more.
well, I think we've done what we can, but let's,
Yeah.
if
Doesn't mean we
there's
won't stay
anything
on
we
it.
can do,
I think it's really just a matter of get them all kind of in a room together and focused. But the good news is that the station is off the replacement list. So I think if anything's an achievement, that's the achievement, and that really is Alex, the bond issue transforming this. So I will continue to bake for them and see how it works. That seems to be the
It's
first.
stunning what a good mood those meetings tend to start in with the brownies. I'm gonna just add, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so many of the businesses have really raised a lot of that money, and it's
Absolutely.
been a big,
And I think
Bonus.
if we realize that we really do need a $100,000 campaign, I think a $100,000 campaign is a manageable thing in this neighborhood. That feels reasonable. The business associations regrouping under Lynn, and the idea is that we would, I think, fairly easily garner
Well,
that.
I know we could. I also think there's in some degrees, not perfectly finite, but that's just something we'll all look at as we get closer to it. I'm going to just report very briefly in the planning committee meeting because we had an odd motion here last month. We agreed to approve a motion in this board, that the planning committee had approved, subject to the provision that the applicant assured us that the measurements of a couple of trees were inaccurate, and he agreed to, he assured us they were. Lowell and I went and measured them. They were not accurate. They weren't very close, in fact. They were 10 or 11 inches off, depending on how you measured it. We notified the applicant. He changed the plans, which got him successfully through the BZA, because that's the way they roll. But at the NPU, I withheld the approval and said we weren't now at next to no effect. It didn't get approved at the NPU, and I don't think anyone else cares, but I didn't want the board to know that's what happened. We measured them. The motion was contingent on his assurance that they were accurate. They weren't even close. I'm not talking about an inch or two. They were 20-something% off. So I just reported that and said we were not. I didn't say we disapproved it because that wasn't our motion, but our motion was it was contingent, and I withheld it. And he was displeased and unhappy. He hired his own attorney and got successfully through the BZA, where Tom and where Debbie and the neighbors did a nice job of presenting it. But according to the historic BZA way of acting in the last few years, there were no predictable grounds, as we all observed in the planning committee, for there not to approve this, and they approved it. But that said, he has since reached out to some of the neighbors, and we were given to understand, to try to improve what I think can be fairly described as inadequate communication. And so we're hopeful that that will proceed in a more amiable fashion than it did. There was a terrible loss of comity in the entire process, and that was a casualty. So anyway, with that report, I'm just letting you know, that's what we did. Are there any new business to come before the board? Any last comments? We're going to threaten to escape here before our police officer intends to come in later in a longer meeting.
Just a quick update, just some master plan projects just that are floating around. We're gonna see where the bike lane projects are, so St. Charles, North Highland, Virginia Avenue, see where those are in the planning. Look at St. Charles, North Highland improvements at that intersection. We've got our eye on the City of Atlanta's bike share program and where those kiosks are gonna go. We've got our fingers crossed that some are gonna be in Virginia-Highland. And we're looking at the storm drain things. I'm gonna, Jack got me in touch with the Department of Watershed Management. So we'd love to have an event later on where we have, people come.
They'll pay for it all. It won't be our favorite little labels, but they're good enough and they're free.
So it'll be good, and it'll just mark, it'll say like, nothing but water in the storm drains, that kind of thing. And yeah, we'll check on Barnett too, because it was in the infrastructure bond funding, but Barnett seems to have been resurfaced relatively recently. So we'll communicate with them to see what the intention was there. If we could restripe it and get a bike lane instead.
Would that be nice?
That would be a reach,
Wow.
because it wasn't in the plan, and we need to go get the neighbors going on that. But we can certainly ask them. Or I do the other thing I think we can take up is what we have to calm the traffic down.
Yeah,
With
right.
a mini little, and that's something for Jonathan. We'll do a smaller center roundabout things that are popular in other cities. It would be, yes, maybe, imagine.
Did we put in the voice a map of where Georgia Works is working?
Well, we didn't, because while I did mention in the article that's coming out tomorrow, right, Stephen? the voice will be on tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, I mentioned that cleaning along the commercial areas of Highland, but then they helped David down at John Howell after the sweet gum fell. It was a huge mess. David got parks and Georgia Works down there, and it was a huge effort the day, the morning before Summerfest, which was, so I think we mentioned it, we didn't do a map, but it's the commercial areas along Highland. And I think that accurately describes it. We also do North Highland Park, which is across the street, but we could revise the article if you think it needs more data than it has. Do you think it's clear, Stephen?
I believe it.
I had somebody ask me about having Georgia Works do something along Ponds Trail. Our border on the Ponds side. And we don't often sort of go around the corner and onto the pond side. So I thought it was just something to think about.
You know, let's talk to them. I don't think we need, I do want to point out that our agreement with them is formally up at the end of this month, and we can talk about it next month. They're going to continue, I think, to come if we know that Jack will. What's the word? If Jack's, I'd like to just continue the discussion at next month and decide if we want to try to plug him in. I think it's been good for the neighborhood, and it's a good program.
Jack, have you been pleased?
I have, is everybody, I think the place looks pretty damn clean, and I think the need for it's going to be more acute once kids get back, and the Mobley explosion
Oh,
happens
yeah.
every Friday.
No question.
That's really what,
Yeah.
I mean, David was one of the big
Right.
advocates for this, was to get that cleaned up, and we might want to bring it back every Monday, yes, Lauren?
I just wanted to add on to Jesse's comments on the master plan, just to say that the work we approved for the residential overlay zone and exploration is in progress, which is the inventory of existing conditions so that we can then start to look at next steps. So haven't mentioned it just because they're quietly doing inventory, which is quite time consuming.
And Jess has a meeting set up with Jonathan Lewis from the planning, assistant director of planning later this week. We're gonna, next week?
It's next
week, right? And we're gonna go over this stuff, but, I mean, this stuff is moving along. We're pushing the buttons persistently. Yes, Catherine?
Just a little issue, y'all know the public sculpture that's at Virginia-Highland, we've talked about it, there was a bad car accident over the weekend. A drunk somewhere, we're not quite sure what happened, but came the wrong way across the sculpture and crashed into a car right in front of our house on Lanier, and then blew out all the tires. White male jumped out, ran about 1 o'clock in the morning. So kind of a long story, but went across the sculpture, and my daughter yesterday found, we were doing our sort of trash pickup in the neighborhood, and she found that a piece about this big has been broken off the sculpture as a result of it. So we recovered the piece, and I know we had talked about bringing the artist back out.
He's around not far away,
Yeah,
so
so
get him over.
that I think what I'll probably do is go out
It's
and
out of the
actually.
country to the 15th of September.
Okay, well, I'll go out and retrieve the piece. I just set it there, but I will, like the curator I am, go get it and hang on to it. And however, I think it's a fairly easy fix, but it's really unfortunate.
He has a piece that was knocked off a
Yeah.
few years back also, that
Okay.
he also wants to add on.
Okay.
We talked about paying for, he has some Georgia State University students.
Yeah, we're surprised that the person wasn't, it was just a crazy accident, going completely the wrong way. I mean, literally over that.
I'm sure alcohol wouldn't affect.
Oh, my. So anyway, just wanted to add that to our list.
So on the calendar, just on the calendar events, I
Yes.
just wanted to mention the annual general meeting, September 17th, Thursday is what we're planning, and we do need to get the middle school cafeteria lined up. We usually have it done earlier, but we'll do, I think we're thinking about other things at that time, but we'll get that done, lined up.
Also in September 27th is Atlanta Streets Alive. So,
Oh, when is it?
September 27th. It's a
Oh.
Sunday afternoon, 2 to 6 p.m. It'll be the same kind of route as before, all the way down North Highland.
Oh, that's terrific.
Across back on North. We'd love to get any firemen involved to have a fire truck out.
Okay.
The goal of the event is to encourage active, engagement in the street. So,
Does it start, did it start right in Virginia-Highland? Is that right?
yes, it starts up there, but it kind of loops back. It's kind of a ladle shape. So it comes back to North Highland along North Avenue.
It's you go all the way down to the belt line, come
Yeah.
back, go up to the
Yeah.
boulevard, and come
So
back.
the firemen wouldn't actually be in the Streets Alive part, they're just a little bit
Yeah.
off
they're
it.
just
But
there.
we might be able to get them to, yeah.
Well, if they can focus on bike safety,
Sure. Is it 2 o'clock occasionally?
2 to 6. And it's kind of, 27th, so 10 days after the annual
Who's in
meeting.
contact, is that what you said, or?
Awesome.
There's
It's
a
always
card,
fun.
Great event.
there's a card circulating, if everybody will sign that before you go.
Who's it for?
Jerry Bright, reporter's partner.
Oh, okay.
Is there any other business or comments? 7:31, we are adjourned.
Wow.
Awesome.
Short late, sitting here for 9 minutes.
Oh, I will, Jennifer, I will. Thank you for coming.
Thanks,